This video is specifically for agents and prospectful agents that are wanting to get into any kind of insurance telesales environment. They don't want to sell face-to-face and they want to sell virtually or in most cases over the phone. What I'm going to do in this video is actually give you my top 7 insurance telesales tips to help you master the telesales insurance presentation so that you can convert more of your insurance leads into actual sales. My name is David Duford, owner of Duford Insurance Group, where I train and recruit agents nationally to sell products like final expense, Medicare, and annuities both over the phone and face-to-face. So again, what's going to proceed in this video are what I have discovered coaching tons of agents on telesales and final expense and Medicare and helping them become a better version of a telesales-based agent. And these are kind of representative of the biggest issues that I see, that I run across. And what I'm going to do here is briefly describe what you need to be aware of in these top 7 tips and how you can fix any of these problems that you may manifest. And one tip I'll give you, this is probably the most important tip, is if you want to identify where your problems are, if you're already selling or thinking about selling some kind of insurance product over the phone, you're first of all going to make mistakes that you're not aware of. And this is why you should be recording yourself. This is the most powerful way to get better quickly. If it seems cringy to you that you got to listen to yourself talk, if you're embarrassed about showing this to your trainer or your mentor, get over it. It is a surefire way to get good at selling any kind of insurance over the phone is to simply listen to how you actually sound. Because the way you think you sound while you do it, boy, it's entirely different. So keep that in mind as I go through these tips, because that's how you're going to identify if these tips are actually relevant to you. So the first thing on here is you got to nail your opener. The first 5 to 10 seconds, that opening script is absolutely imperative to nail if you want your prospect to listen to your presentation. It's not like face-to-face. If you're experiencing face-to-face, you don't have to be Mr. Dynamic or charismatic. You just make eye contact, shake hands, smile, do your little thing, and usually you can get in the door with just that. But over the phone, at any instance where the person feels a little perturbed or disturbed or bothered, they can hang the phone up. And a lot of that decision to continue the call is made on how you execute the opening. So what am I expecting you to do to execute or nail the opening part of your insurance telesales presentation? Well, the first thing is how you sound, okay? It's not so much what you say, although that is important. It's how you sound. Every good telesales person that I have coached or I've had discussions with are killers when it comes to their enthusiasm and tonality. They sound like people that people want to listen to. They are interesting, they're intriguing. If you sound boring, monotonous, slow, nobody wants to listen to you, okay? Not in this day and age. So again, you may not think you're this way, but you probably are in one respect, and you need to record yourself and let yourself realize exactly what I mean. Make sure, above all else in your script, that you absolutely well rehearse this portion. You have to open your presentation up like a boss every single time. If you goof this up, if you don't stay on script, if you don't deliver it in the strategy in the way that I've described, people will say, this guy's kind of strange, he's weird, I don't know about him. They'll obviously think the worst and then hang up. So nail the opener. Number 2 is utilize a textable business card during the opener, not right at the beginning, but in the process of building rapport, as well as in the process of introducing yourself formally about who you are, what you do, and why it matters. We recommend and have liked this. We use something called the Haystack app. If you go put a Google search in for it, you'll see it. Essentially what it is a digital business card. You fill it out ahead of time, you put your mugshot on it, your contact information, you text it to them. It's a great way to take a conversation that is based on words and to add some life into it, to add some context into it. They get to see you, they get to read about you, they see where you're licensed at. It makes the whole interaction a lot easier. And I think it's useful because what people will do sometimes when they're talking to you, they'll put on speakerphone, check you out, and they're like, okay, cool, this guy works for whatever, and he's real, etc. So it's a way to humanize this conversation where it's normally distant, right? So we like utilizing it. We've never had any problems just texting it over. Everybody is willing to accept it. And again, it helps differentiate us from the other telemarketers or the other insurance telesales agents that don't use it. Number 3, go deeper than deep. Okay, this is really an overall arching suggestion, not suggestion, requirement for rapport building and pre-qualifying. Here's the big difference between telesales and face-to-face. In face-to-face, I can be almost clinical, as one of my agents, Buck, said, in my pre-qualification and fact-finding. I can just get to the point, not spend a lot of time going really deep and kind of being just hard charging and be very just, get the information but not go deep. There's something about a face-to-face presentation that inherently builds more rapport. We see the person, we shake their hands, make eye contact, etc. We cannot depend upon that stuff if you're selling insurance over the phone. So you have to, in a sense, replace what natural advantages you would have had if you were face-to-face. And one of those is being more willing to go deeper into the rapport building and pre-qualifying than you're probably even comfortable with. This is a common recurring theme when I do analysis of my agents' calls. It's a thing that I do very commonly in my agency. Agents that want me to review their calls, I do it, and I give them constructive criticism, no shame, no making them feel bad, but I let them know what they need to fix. And again, time and again, the big thing that needs to be fixed is going deeper in rapport, building a better connection with your client, and also building more depth into the pre-qualification section. Again, our clients have to see the hearse backed up against the front porch. That's harder to do if you're doing telesales than it is if you're face-to-face for whatever reason. So you have to intentionally go deeper. Now, how do we go deeper? Well, rule of thumb is to always question everything. I made a video about this earlier, a couple weeks ago. The idea behind questioning everything is to get into more depth. So if somebody says something that seems off, losing my job during COVID has been crazy, man. That's interesting. That's a little different than the typical chit chat that doesn't mean anything. What do you mean by that? Why did you lose your job? How do you mean it was weird? And then go a little bit deeper. And then same thing with the pre-qualification. What happens tomorrow, Mr. Prospect, if you die? Who pays for your funeral? And if they start squirming in their seat and they give you a partial response, well, how does that make you feel? What do you think about that? And you're going to get more emotion out of those questions, which is going to endear them more to you because they can tell you care and you want the best for them. And they're going to be in a state to more likely buy because of it. This is not optional. You cannot skirt around going deep into everything. So get better at going deeper into your rapport and get better at going deeper into your pre-qualifying if you want any kind of semblance of success in this business, of telesales especially. Number 4 on the list here, eliminate distraction with temperature checks. So this is something we've utilized in our scripting, where any situation where you're explaining a concept, right, where you may be taking time to go into depth, explaining the difference between term life and whole life insurance, you know what I mean? You need to insert little temperature checks that help you make sure the client is A, engaged, and B, they're actually on board with what you're saying. Does that make sense? So you notice, I think I use like 3 temperature checks right there within that little explanation. You want to be doing that over the phone because it's easier to engage with me right now in a video, right? Because you get to look at the person. It's interesting. Oh, hopefully it's interesting. It may not be. But it's different over the phone because it's just voice. Whereas your client's sitting in wherever they're sitting, and they've got their 55-inch screen TV watching Steve Harvey, Price is Right, Jerry Springer, Bonanza. They've got their 5 cats, fur flying everywhere, roaches running across the table, whatever. Constant distractions, dogs barking, etc. That's what's going on that you don't see, okay? And the thing is, you have to think about, there's this constant drag of the environment that your client's in that's trying to vie away their attention from listening to you to seeing what other crap's going on around them, okay? It is happening even if you don't hear anything, okay? So you have to engineer in your script, not being too obvious about it, okay? You don't want to be over the top about it, but especially during longer explanatory sentences, maybe 5 to 10 seconds long, where you're talking and they're not engaging, engineer make sense, sound right to you, have any questions, what do you think? Something like that will keep them more engaged. Because what will happen is anytime you're asked a question, you can't help but to answer it, okay? It demands your attention. And it'll help people who are getting off track from their attention back to you. So this is really, really critical. In my analysis of all these insurance sales presentations on telesales that I've done, it becomes evident. You can hear people when they're not listening. They'll say, yeah, makes sense. But they're not emotionally engaged. You can visualize that they're kind of like, playing Candy Crush as you got them on speakerphone, and they're doing this crap, okay? You just don't see it. So make sure that you're asking these kind of temperature check questions every once in a while to make sure that they're engaged and still listening to you. If you don't do this, you're going to lose people, especially as you start to get more into the explanations of how the different insurance products works, why is yours different. The more conceptual you get, you'll start losing people, especially if you start doing math or something, which is a good way to lose a lot of people. When you're presenting how your product works or explaining and comparing and contrasting, it's really important to help your client paint mental pictures using the words that you use, okay? So it's very simple how to do this, okay? And this is step number 5. Imagine if, fill in the blank. Picture this. Those 2 words you should be using a multitude of times throughout the presentation. For example, if I'm talking about Colonial Penn, it's a 2-year wait, and they die in the first 2 years, I'll say, picture what your family would feel like if you had this Colonial Penn plan, this guaranteed acceptance plan, and you suddenly died. How would they feel? Picture what they would have to go through. Tell me, what would you think about that? If you can say these things, they do what you tell them to. You're giving them a command. And again, we're not there to show them anything. We don't have any props. We don't have any handouts. They're probably looking at something else while they're listening to you. So you have to command them to think visually, all right? That makes this process that much more tangible. So picture this, imagine that. You have to do that if you want to create a more valuable presentation that helps better connect the client to what you're saying. Related to that, tell stories. Okay, there's a reason why the New Testament and Jesus is so popular, because Jesus knew how to actually talk in parables to explain big concepts in a way that were harder to understand. Okay, think of all the parables and the stories from the Bible. Understanding the Good Samaritan, for example. There are powerful stories that have stayed with us forever. We think in context like that. So, for example, what we want to be doing is telling our clients stories, our prospects, future clients, stories whenever we're trying to make a conceptual point. And the more that you can insert into this, the better. There was an agent, I think, at North Star that Ramiz Hakim was talking about. She's the top producer there. And I think he said that this lady does more than 10 stories on each phone call, which probably I do like 5 or 6. So, and she's a top producer. She is the top producer. So think about where you can insert a story. Think about your personal experience. If you go do a search for some of like David Duford insurance stories, you'll get examples of stories. So I've done videos on sharing certain stories with you. So if you want to steal those stories from me, just say, hey, my friend in the business told me the story, and it's completely the same effect that they'll get. But you want to tell stories about what happens when somebody got term insurance and they didn't know it. What happens if they had price increases? What was the impact on the family? What was the impact of buying a 2-year waiting period product? What was the impact of buying your coverage if they died? Or how you helped someone? Or what a story about somebody dying and didn't have coverage, or they had coverage. The more that you do that, the more connected you're going to be to your client. And again, people better understand things when they see other people going through something similar and they understand the story. Okay, very, very powerful. One of the most important tips here. And then lastly here's the thing. How you open or how you close is dependent upon exactly how you open. This is just a reminder from earlier. It's so common, and this is a problem with a lot of the gurus out there, not just in insurance sales, but just sales in general. They love making videos about how to close. There's some sort of this like mystique or intrigue about closing hard and this whole romance about it. Well, it's not real. The problem is with your closing, if you're not getting the sale, is because you didn't do something in the opening. You probably didn't do your script. That's the biggest problem. You probably didn't connect well with the client, okay? This is why I say the opening is so much more important, because it predicates the close. If you can open well, you can go deeper, like I was describing, in the pre-qualification and rapport building stages of whatever you're presenting as far as insurance goes over the phone. Closing is not a big deal. In fact, I teach my agents one closing strategy, a good, better, best, which one works best strategy. We don't have 20 different closing strategies. You just have one. All you need is one, okay? And again, a good opener overcomes a lot of the issues that telesales brings, predominantly trust factors, okay? That's the biggest thing that happens, is why people don't buy from you, is because they don't trust you. But you're going to be thinking, well, how do I deal with I need to think about it? And what if they say I need to pray to my pet rock, or I need to talk to my kids? That's BS. It's not real, okay? What the problem was is you didn't build enough relationship with them, but you're off on some tangent coming up with some new close that doesn't even matter, okay? Bottom line here, top 7 tips to telesales insurance success. Let's go over them one more time. Nail your opener. Again, tonality. Make sure you're scripted perfectly. Rehearse it like a mother. Number 2, utilize a textable business card, the Haystack app. Go Google that. Start using that right away. Only helps. 3, go deeper in rapport building and pre-qualifying. Go deeper than deep. Number 4, eliminate distraction with temperature checks. Does that make sense? Any thoughts on that? What do you think? You all right with that? That kind of stuff. Number 5, paint pictures. Number 6, tell stories. And of course, number 7, how you close depends on how you open, as a friendly reminder. I do hope you enjoyed this training. I enjoyed giving it to you. If you like this video, subscribe. If you haven't, certainly thumbs it up. If you have any tips on telesales that I forgot to mention or you think are relevant, you're welcome to leave them below. Help everybody out. And if you haven't checked out how my agency works, selling final expense telesales or Medicare telesales, click the link above or below to learn more. My name is David DuFord at DuFord Insurance Group. Logging off. We'll see you.